let's talk about free-to-play units with my friend and your Strategistmaster. Getting to do collaborations is something that I'm super excited to do more of, especially after I got a chance to sit down and talk with Strategistmaster. I doubt that you are watching any kind of video and don't know who he is, but he is a YouTube player really known to be free-to-play. So I sat down and I had a conversation with him about how FE treats free-to-play players, what to do with certain builds, and it was just an awesome conversation. Without further ado, welcome, Strategist. Thank you so much for joining me. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem at all.
So, what has attracted me to you is the fact that you're a very big free-to-play player, right?
Yeah.
And I remember...
Attracted.
You know, whenever that magnetism's so strong, there's only so much a guy can do. But... So... Well, what I was wondering is that first of all, is this your first gacha game, or have you been playing gachas for a while, or?
You know what? Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure this actually is my first experience with legitimate gacha sort of archetype game. I can't think of any other one that sort of fits the mold.
Right. No, its definitions changed over time, but yeah, this seems to be what all the kids are doing these days anyway. But you've played a lot of Fire Emblem games up until now, unlike me, right?
Damn near all of them. All of the Western releases, of course.
Okay. I guess one question that I have for you to start off with is that, and you don't have too many things to compare it to, but do you feel that Intelligent Systems and Nintendo is treating players who aren't spending money on this game fairly? You know, do you think that there's enough to do, I guess you could say?
I think they really are being treated pretty fairly. The gacha system and RNG in general can be a very cruel mistress. And I think as free-to-play players, I think our expectations can get the better of us. For the most part, we end up expecting too much for actually literally nothing being a free-to-play player, because we're not putting anything but our time and effort and possibly sharing the game with our friends with the game. So I mean, when you really think about it in a logical sense, you could like walk into a store and you can't really expect something from that store for nothing. So the fact that a game like Fire Emblem Heroes can give so much to its player base for free is actually pretty mind-blowing in the first place, where most other games don't even come like 25% of the way that like Fire Emblem has tried to, or rather IS has tried to cultivate its community with all the sort of quote-unquote free things that it offers and gives away. With the Grand Hero battles, Tempest, I think the biggest thing are the 5-star heroes, and the fact that actually apparently most gachas don't have is a system where after spending the game's premium currency, they increase rates of getting a 5-star hero. So I think, I have actually played other gachas, just so you know. Fire Emblem Heroes happened to be my first in that style of game. I went to other ones, kind of dipped my toes in other ones like Fate Grand Order, which are like more experienced in the type of game, I think, more than Fire Emblem Heroes, but I feel like Fire Emblem Heroes is more free-to-play friendly. Short answer, long.
Well, thank you for not just saying, yeah. But no, I've had that sentiment, but I'm obviously not a free-to-play player. I used to call myself a whale, and then I was proven wrong. I'm not a whale. I'm definitely a dolphin. But regardless, it seems like at least everything is accessible, or at least quasi-accessible to everybody. I mean, you can still get orbs from Arena. You can still get enough feathers to do things with. You can still refine things. I mean, everybody's refining at the same rate at the moment, pretty much, but still.
Oh man, if there's a way where we could get more of these semi-premium materials, like the premium currency is obviously the orbs.
Right.
And those we can actually legitimately get in abundance. Like, I'm making a rough, very, very rough estimate, but I believe we're getting around 200 to 250 free-to-play orbs each month now. Because I've saved all of mine that were sacrificed to Ike's legendary banner, and I was at 0, like a dead 0, as soon as that banner ended. And it's been almost a month since then, and I've gotten around the total of 250 total saved. I've spent about 40-ish recently, and that would mean I've collected about 250 in the space of about a month.
Wow.
But I was wishing that we could also get refining stones, sacred coins, and feathers from more than just what IS wants to offer us in Quest. If there was some sort of material banner, we could potentially use some sort of other currency or something on, which I guess could be coming down the pipeline depending on what these new game modes are. But oh man, I really, really want more feathers, stones, and coins.
Yeah.
Really badly.
Yeah, I'm hurting on especially feathers right now, but the refining stones are definitely what's driving me mad, because I mean, like, there is not even a slow trickle. You're not even getting like 105 of these a day. It's like 7 days from now, you might get 10. You know, this is driving me nuts.
Yeah, from the arena.
Yeah.
Waiting for my weekly allotment of materials so I might improve something from level 1 to level 2.
Woo! It's like allowance all over again, you know? We started to talk about some of the other things here, but I mean, a lot of this, we talked about the rate increase. I'm sorry, real words. We talked about getting the rate increase a little bit, but do you think overall that the summoning pool is fair compared to what you've seen and compared to what you've felt from it, I guess? Like the distribution, the percentages?
For the most part, the only thing I felt was awry was in the Legendary Heroes summoning banner. But that could potentially also be another case of unrealistic expectations. And I kind of actually got hyped up by my own Discord server. I had a solid near 400 orbs saved at the time when Ike's legendary banner came out, and people were already marveling at the fact I had so many orbs in the first place, and they were like, "Oh man, you're totally gonna at least get like 2 or 3 Ikes."
Oh god!
And I kind of got caught up in the hype too, and I was just kind of thinking, you know, with over 400 orbs, I really should get at least 1 Ike. Spoiler alert, I ended up going past 520 orbs and I didn't get 1. So this Hero Rises event is a literal Naga send. But for the most part, I do think it's very difficult to analyze how a banner feels. And it's almost impossible to analyze how it feels from the raw numbers in the first place because of our personal bias. Depending on your outlook, whether you're a glass half full or half empty kind of person, 3%, 5%, or 8% could look completely different just from a matter of perspective. There have also been people who have gotten the worst deal out of the raw RNG engine, where if you look at a legitimate graph of true RNG, there will always be the outliers on either extreme of the scale, where people are magically getting like every single orb in a single pull is like 5 stars, and you may even have people on the other side of the spectrum that get a 20% pity rate. With true RNG, this sort of stuff happens, but I do believe there is some sort of underlying algorithm within the game to kind of prevent anything even more extreme than what has already happened. But it's really, really hard to really discern exactly what you could get from a banner, which makes it difficult to be a free-to-play player.
Right. Now, and it's funny, because of that randomized nature, then, how How do you approach builds then for units? I mean, I actually just learned something about you recently that you don't have, I can't say any because I'm not too sure, but you don't really merge your units when it comes down to it. You use everything as fodder, right?
Actually, this is pretty much the perfect moment in time that you asked me this particular question. Because no, for the longest time I didn't merge anything, and pretty much the only character that I had that was merged was my Ike that I somehow got to +5. Right. Like, my luck is so extremely weird. I have a hard time purposely summoning Ike, but when I'm not actually trying to get him, he just shows up a lot. But not recently. But the one thing that I wish I did focus on a lot more was merging characters, because now I'm lagging pretty far behind in the arena score aspect of the game. But otherwise, at this point in time, since I've been playing the game since day one, I've been able to collect every single resource that's come out since then. And now I'm actually getting to the point where I have more than enough 5 stars to really fill out any team, any sort of niche, or, you know, whatever I want to do with any particular color of character at any time, especially red. So now I've begun to organize my characters a bit more in the sense that, do I need this one, or is this one just going to sit on the bench forever? It's all about efficiently utilizing resources. And I have a ton of red units just sitting on the bench. So what I've gone ahead and done is unfavorited a lot of the 5 stars that I have in my roster for use as fodder for characters I could get in the future, anticipating, you know, power creep and such, which is, I think, a necessary evil, by the way. But for example, I had a Laszlo that's 4-star +10 merged, and we all got that Tempest Trial Marissa,
yeah,
who is, you know, a perfectly good unit and everything. I'm not gonna talk bad about her or anything, but I knew for a fact that I was never going to use her, so I simply gave my 4-star +10 Laszlo the 5-star treatment, and gave him a 5-star weapon along with a mediocre A skill. So this way she's not just sitting on the bench forever. I'm getting some kind of use out of her.
Oh god, you
so
didn't
I'm
even
kind
fodder
of
her off for infantry pulse? Oh god, that kills me.
Well, actually the reason for that is funny, because during my legendary summoning I got like 3 Spring Xanders, so I was pretty full up on infantry pulse.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, I'm in this weird limbo where I'm a free-to-play player, but I've got a roster that would look like probably a lot of Wales accounts, where they have a lot of merges. They have like a lot of 5 stars at their disposal. Like if I had Sagemaster 15's account, for example, I would literally not know what to do with myself. Like having numerous copies of every single game or every single character in the game ever. I wouldn't know where to start. So I'm actually kind of glad I've got a bit of a concise roster. I actually have every single team slot available to us filled up with a legitimate, thought-out, invested-in team. All 10 of them.
Really cool. That's one thing that I've struggled with. I've always complained to people about Arena Assault. The, you know, like, oh, I just can't ever get a high score in Arena Assault. That's because, you know, I still pick my 7 or 8 favorite heroes and I deck them out, and everybody else is level 40, sitting there with a bunch of SP, and yeah, no, here I am sending other heroes home for feathers because there's one other skill I want to put on somebody I've already invested like 40k feathers in or something, you know? So that's pretty cool that you actually have been able to make such a usable team. Set of teams, rather.
Yeah, it's not just good for Arena Assault either. It's actually good for chain challenges, squad assaults, and stuff like that, and just generally making the game a little bit more interesting also, instead of just using your staple team to just ruffle stomp your way through new quests that come out with like new story chapters or something. Makes it way more interesting.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things, and it's hard to compare some of the newer skills to the older skills directly because they change so much, but there are some interesting heroes that have been coming out with really, I can't say like far out there abilities, but I mean, the craziest ability so far, I guess, would have to be Fallen Heroes Takumi with his strafing run that he does at the end of turn 3, right?
that actually, that's probably by far one of the most interesting skills thus far. I don't think we've seen anything like it yet, especially due to the fact that it just procs on turn 3.
Yeah.
It's centered on, what, 3 columns?
Yeah.
That is oddly specific. That is completely just breaking the norm of the skills that we've come to expect these days. Excluding Ike's apparent Hammond abilities. Anybody that's watched JoJo knows what I'm talking about. He's got all the breath abilities.
Yeah, I can't wait for Speed Breath, and for that Ike variant, that would be good.
Yeah, Fierce Breath and probably, what, Flashing Breath? That's a weird name for a skill.
Yeah, that
Flashing Breath.
Yeah, I don't know.
Since we're on the subject of skills, can we just take like half of a second and have a moment of silence for the Defiant skills and how utterly useless they are?
Yeah, tell me about it. I have used them once, and that was for a Sophia I gave a Blade Tome to, so that she could run Desperation and Brash Assault. Yeah. So that she self-buffs herself. But yeah, I was even talking to somebody in the comments the other day, and I forget, I want to say it was Fierce Stance. They're like, oh, what's better, Fierce Stance or Defiant Attack? And I'm like, ooh, that's your question.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if one day they're just gonna, if IS is just gonna come down and actually directly buff a couple of those skills, just the Defiant skills. Or rather, maybe that's what the Brazen skills are like an indirect buff to those Defiant skills, just under a different name and a more premium accessibility. But it would be kind of at least nice if they were to buff Defiant skills just a little bit, even if it doesn't make them competitive with the meta skills today. Defiant skills would be so much more useful if they weren't a direct, bonus, an actual field buff, because those don't stack. If they did stack, it would be a lot more useful. But that's all I really wanted to say about that.
No, those poor skills are behind it. And yeah, it's funny though, the Brazen set of skills are obviously better, but the fact that they aren't hone skill, they switched it over to a spur, I think makes a lot of sense. If you had a hone skill that was that big, there'd be too many of the things like Blade Tomes that could leverage off of that too much, and it would also be way too crippling for things like Panic and whatnot, if you're hit with a debuff on that too. So I think, anyway, if it was any larger than 7. That's what it is, right? 7? God, I can't remember.
Yeah. 7 to 2 skills, or 2 stats.
Yeah. Oh, well, Brazen is to 2 stats. The Defiant's just to 1. So, but yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
So here's one other thing, though, that I've been wanting to ask you. So whenever I do a build video, I always try to do a budget build, where the definition of budget is that you have a skill that is not available, that is only available below 5 stars. So, nothing that's 5-star locked. Now, if it's only on
4-star and under.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if it's only on a 4 and 5-star, but it's accessible at 4 stars,
so
then,
like no Life and Death 3 and such.
Right. Well, that's the funny thing now is that Soth is out there. If that's how you say his name, can't pronounce. Any
oh
of his names.
Yeah. That's actually available now. That's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah. No, and he has Life and Death available now, and so I guess, would you consider it fair? That's a great example. Would you consider it fair if you saw somebody say, "Oh, this is a budget build. He uses Life and Death 3." Do you think that that's fair game, or do you? What's your opinion on that?
as far as budget builds are concerned, I think there is some leeway in regards to like free 5-star characters that we've gotten, like, you know, for example, Marissa, 5, and such. You could, like, say you're talking about a Lance unit or something. You could potentially say give them like Silver Lance from a Clive or whatever. But for the most part, free-to-play players really don't have the resources to be sacking 5-star characters. Like I said earlier, I'm actually in that unique position where I can be doing that because I've got so many characters in the roster that I just can't be utilizing each and every one of them all the time anyway. So rather than having them warm the bench so much that they set it on fire, I might as well put their skills to use at least. But otherwise, budget build, I actually do still do a couple of budget builds for some of the characters I get. Like, I was actually considering sacking Ellie Wood's Casablanca to my distant counter FE, because that would be somewhat useful due to the fact that he nullifies range with the magic and staff. But I try to keep their original skills unless they just aren't that particularly useful. And I'm not going to use like a free unit as an example. I'll use like Ryoma. Ryoma is far and beyond a fantastic character, but he comes with a Defiant skill. So when you do a budget build on a character like that, you're not going to leave the Defiant skill. You'll probably replace it with something like Fury from a 4-star Hinata, for example.
Yeah, and that's, I definitely replace skills if I think something is not not up to snuff, like that Defiant skill on that. But yeah, no, it's one thing that's always
for example.
Yeah, but it's just one thing that I have thought about more and more as the pool has grown larger. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? It's technically in the 4-star pool, but yeah, it's only on one hero. You know, to point at the same Whipping Boy right now. You know, there's only one hero that has life and death in the 4-star pool. And, you know, we're lucky to have that.
Plays a part in that as well.
Exactly. Well, this has been an awesome Strategist Master. Tell me, where can people find you at?
Well, obviously, you can find me on YouTube at Strategist Master, of course. And if you were to watch one of my videos, I guess the other thing I'd like to plug is my Discord, where I talk to people pretty often. I'd like to think we are all encompassing, welcoming community, but you'll just have to find out for yourself. The invite to that is in almost every one of my Fire Emblem Heroes videos.
Sweet. Well, thank you once again. This has been awesome and a pleasure.
Yeah, we got to do it again.
Heck yeah.
More than happy to collab with other people.